Hi everyone. I'm so happy to be with you again. I hope you're all doing well. As a starseed and light weaver, it's my job, as it is with others, to do whatever I can to be of assistance to the human race. The knowledge that I share in these videos comes both from my higher galactic guidance and from the various ET contacts I've had over my weird and wonderful life in the body of a human girl and woman. I certainly don't see myself as any authority or expert on these subjects, and don't pretend in any way to be a spiritual teacher. And really, outside of the ET communications, I've lived a very simple and quiet life. Nevertheless, it has been my privilege to have retained a strong connection with higher understanding and perception. I therefore can't help but feel it's my duty and responsibility to find a way to bring this knowledge on to you. And I'll do my best always to bring it through as clearly and simply as I can, and concentrating more on the metaphysical side rather than getting too deep within scientific details, although at some point we may go there too. What I'd like to address in this video are the various stages a starseed might go through during an incarnation on planet Earth. And as I'm most familiar with my own journey, I'll begin there, although this could apply to most anyone. So this video will be in two parts. As I mentioned in an earlier video, I came into this human life somewhat aware, as happens with many children. Yet this awareness most often fades as the child adapts to a Terran existence and soon may come to believe that this life now is all that exists or ever will. Children are extremely adaptable to their environment and will imprint on whoever's caring for them, like parents and sitters and siblings and teachers and other such role models. And these others can greatly influence the child as she or he grows. In my case, as I began to learn about the lives going on around me, I found myself naturally falling into the ways of these others. My parents were kind and funny, and I loved and admired them. And my older sister became sort of a second mother until I started school. But my favorite teacher and mentor was my grandmother. She took me under her wing and told me amazing stories about how Jesus came to earth in a starship, and that was the great shining star of Bethlehem. She used to say, "Thoughts are things," and explained how you live your thoughts. What you put your attention on becomes the world around you. She was strict about playtime with my sisters and brother. If we wanted to play cowboys and Indians, for instance, she reminded us that the Indians were just as important as the cowboys and advised us to alternate roles between the two. She said that this is how it works on Earth. You're a cowboy in one life and you're an Indian in another. She was amazing. And it was only after her death that I discovered that for many years she had been an initiate in a spiritual school of ancient wisdom. As the first few years went by, I had pretty much put away the ET life I had just left and focused on my terrestrial family. When I started grade school, however, even being the child that I was, I felt there was something very wrong with the way education was structured. You know, like the kids had no say. School was just forced on us, and there was no room for creative thought or ideas or differences in learning styles. We all had to fit into the box enforced upon us. As the days at school went by, I became more and more disappointed and despondent, nearly to the point of a crushing anxiety every morning before school. One day in school, I became so anxious, nearly to the point of terror, and I just had to get out of there. I found myself jumping up from my desk and crashing through the heavy school doors, running as fast as I could toward home. When I got to the front gate, I just kept running over the front lawn and down through the orchard and into the valley beside the creek. I just stood there panting for several minutes. My whole body was shaking. I was too distraught to even cry until I saw my mother hurrying toward me. She put out her arms and I ran into them sobbing. And, without asking me what had happened, she just held me close, promising me it would be okay. But all I wanted at that moment was to never have to go back to that scary prison called school. After that, my mother did what she could to help me adapt to school by having my sister, who was one grade above me, show me the way and take care of me as much as possible. She would walk me to school every morning and back home every afternoon. She walked me to each class and picked me up afterwards. It was obvious to me how confident and comfortable my sister was in the school environment. And I wondered why she was and why I wasn't, and what was wrong with me. She had friends, and the teachers loved her. I can't tell you how many times I heard the phrase, "Why can't you be more like your sister?" Well, I didn't know why I couldn't. I became more and more disappointed in myself. And that's when I started getting sick. I contracted pretty much everything that came along, mumps and measles and flus and colds and rheumatic fever, pneumonia, and probably more. And when I look back, the most peaceful times in my childhood were when I was lying sick in bed. The higher the fever, the better, and I wouldn't have to go to school. The summer I turned 8 years old, I was playing outside by myself at the side of the house when suddenly I was knocked over sideways by an invisible force, and I fell over into the soft cluster of ivy that covered the hillside. The next thing I knew, I was in an open blue space. It was like floating through a summer sky. I could hear a soft, loving voice talking to me. I wanted to stay there forever. I don't remember everything the voice said, but I do remember asking not to go back, but was told I would need to return. I felt myself becoming very sad until the voice assured me I would feel much better when I returned because I would, as it said, have more of myself and wouldn't have to be scared all the time. I remember falling out of the sky and landing back into my body with a hard thump. When I got up, I had a terrible pain in my head, and I was sure I was dying. I rushed into the house and told my mother I had a really bad headache. She looked at me lovingly and said, "But honey, kids don't get headaches." So of course, with that explanation, I trusted that the pain would stop soon. And it did. Hey, mothers always know best. From that time into my teens, I was very happy, almost to the point of giddiness. I loved making others laugh and became the family comic. I would stand up on the piano bench and pretend I was an opera singer and sing out at the top of my lungs. My dad had played in a dance band when he was young and played the piano beautifully. He would play and I would sing. Nearly everything was a joke to me. Everything was funny. I got in trouble more than once at school because I would just burst out laughing for no reason and would get sent out into the hall. When the teacher would come back to see if I was going to be good now, I was sure I could hold it in. But as soon as I got back into my seat and someone would just look at me, I was gone again. Puberty had its ups and downs, and I was mostly happy and healthy. Until I was in my senior year of high school and became really ill with a fever. And one of my legs became so stiffened that the knee wouldn't bend. The doctor told my mother that it was a severe case of rheumatic fever, along with arthritic complications, and all of this had caused a heart murmur. I wasn't able to walk for more than a year and had to miss graduating high school with my class. I got very skinny, and my dad would carry me around here and there, or have me stand on his feet, and he would walk me to the bathroom or the bedroom or outside to lay in the sun. It was a very peaceful and contemplative time for me. With my mom and dad working and busy, and the other kids in school, I was alone during most of the day and would sit at the piano and sing and play for hours, or just sit and read a book. When I healed enough to walk again, I was so thrilled to be mobile again that I started exercising every day, doing yoga and other fitness routines. And as soon as I could, I began jogging and then running, doing half marathons and 10K runs, and began winning ribbons for my age group. I found sports and physical exercise to come really easy to me. I also joined the local ballet academy and danced ballet for many years. I've since realized just how powerful a determined mind can be in healing a body. I stopped eating meat and ate mostly vegetables and fruits and grains. Not too long after that, the doctor retested my heart and said he could not find any sign of a heart murmur. Yay! Then I fell in love and got married. It was just the two of us, very romantic. All through my life, I had absolutely no urge to have a child, and that was still my plan. However, one night I was taken onto an ET craft and told that there was a soul asking to come through me as my child. This soul very much wanted to be on Earth during the ascension and was asking for me. I said no, insisting I did not want to be a mother in this life. But when I met the soul, I was very moved by the purity and sincerity of its being. And I was shown a holographic visual of the child at 4 years old. And as soon as I laid eyes on this little boy, I fell in love. He was charming and adorable, like a little Buddha. I was shown scenes of us playing together and laughing. I said yes. A few months later, I became pregnant. It was an amazing experience. I was not sick a day with morning sickness. I kept doing my exercises up until the day he was born. And it was an extremely easy birth with only moments of labor. And I was up walking directly after the birth while still in the delivery room. My husband and sisters were shocked. And as the baby grew, just like the vision I was shown aboard craft, my son and I played together as if we were the same age. It was such fun. The next several years rolled by, and I was totally immersed into being a mom and a wife. It was all about family. We were very happy. My sisters and their husbands would come over every weekend, and the kids would enjoy being together, and we would all play instruments and sing deep into the night. I would bake cookies and cakes, and we would cook meals together and have barbecues outside. We would take trips and go fishing or camping. It was almost like a Disney movie family or Father Knows Best TV show. Then suddenly for who knows, for reasons still not fully understood, things began to take a strange turn, and my world just began collapsing all around me. It felt like someone had turned down the frequency dial to a setting of fear and disloyalty and trepidation. One family member committed suicide. Another had earlier attempted that same thing. Relationships ended, couples split up, either through death or divorce. My world had gone mad, and so many individuals, including myself, were faced with very difficult decisions. Everything I had known as normal life turned upside down. It was crazy. What is it they say? It's always darkest before the dawn. Well, I don't know if that's true, but in this case it was. This was right before I got another big spiritual jolt. It was the 80s, and the world was changing fast. So let's see, the point I want to make here is that these stages that come into a single life are sometimes not even noticed by the person as anything but, life. It's normal. We get a job, we fall in love, we get married, buy a house, 2 cars, have kids, a dog and a cat, a mortgage, a divorce. You know the deal. That distant extraterrestrial life you remembered, or didn't yet remember, falls far into the background as you face the joys and trials of life. No matter where you are around the globe, it all applies the same. This is because most of us who come here choose to become human and live a life of being just that, a human on earth. Before we come into a human life, we have planned it all out and written a basic script that has within it those main objectives and essential points that we want to approach during an incarnated existence. It also has placed within it those significant meetings, pivotal people and events we will come into contact with during this life. Additionally, our entrance and exit points of birth and death, including also the ethereal update, adjustments made throughout the life. Those times when you might go back home briefly or to a craft for a physical or mental upgrade, so to speak. Just as Source did, and we are that, our soul is able to fragment itself to bring into our human life exactly what we need and when. For example, if we've chosen to drop all memory at birth, this will be programmed in. The most significant moments that lie within your plan are those moments of remembering and awakening to your true self as an extraterrestrial being, to drop down through the layers of density and work your way back up to remembering who you are. The hero's journey. So there may be phases within one lifetime where you have no conscious connection to who you were before coming into your human body. And there may be other junctures, or perhaps only one, where you begin to remember who you are. And the more you remember, the more you know. One way to put it is, there'll be times when you don't need as much of your soul awareness, and times when you're ready to become wholly who you are in the higher realms that you came from. So, if you happen to be one of those who chose not to remember yet, take my word for it. This is as it should be, because it was chosen by you. And when it's time to awaken and remember, you will. I promise. It was during this erratic stage in my life and that of those around me that I became so saddened and disheartened with life, this life as a human. And I began to feel that I'd been here long enough and had squeezed everything out of the human experience that I could. There was like a vacancy inside, a deep yearning inside my chest that made me feel empty and alone. One day, it all came tumbling down on me, and all I could think of was escaping from this unforgiving madhouse I had fallen into, and I longed for home. I waited until I was alone, and I yanked the phone cord out of the wall and put on my soft blue bunny pajamas, and I downed a whole handful of sleeping pills with my morning orange juice. I'm not proud of this. And I laid down on my bed and closed my eyes. The hours that followed were spent in another world, another realm. As I underwent what is now known as an NDE, or a near-death experience. And I won't be able to go into the details in this video, obviously, because it's already too long. But I will soon make a full detailed video about that NDE and what I experienced and learned from going back into that higher realm. I had ended up back into the etheric sphere where my life had originally been planned out. Long story short, at the end of that encounter was told it was essential that I return to my terrestrial life, after which nearly everything in my existence changed. So I'll say goodbye for now, but please stay tuned for part 2, which will come very soon, followed quickly by my NDE. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.